Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name is Prickly Poo and welcome to day 142 of a year of change. Today's subject is going to be a bit odd, and apologies up front, but this is going to be pretty much aimed towards the guys. I know there are a lot of different subjects that we've sort of touched on that covers everybody. And we have done the male body image and female body image and everything else, but this isn't something that I think women can, maybe you can sort of relate to it, but not really. So it's mainly aimed at the guys. And I will warn you up front, this is going to be a bit weird and a bit awkward. Basically, there's always something that we hate about ourselves. One way or the other, there's one aspect of us that being fat really sort of stands out more than anything else. And for me, and I suppose, for a lot of people, for a lot of guys out there, it's the same thing. And you can call them whatever you want. We've heard them all. But basically, we can run through the gambit. There's man boobs, moobs, you can call them whatever you want. Doesn't matter. My personal favorite is sweater muffins. But I've heard them all. So should we call them breasts? Would that be better? That'd be more... fuck it. I don't care. Anyway. Boobs. Basically is what this is about. But not the nice kind. But the bad kind. Man boobs. It's something that fat guys get. We all get them, I think. No, not all of us. Actually, I have seen some where it's just... they just don't have them. I don't know what it is. I've got them, and I don't like them. They're like, yeah. I don't even know what cup size it would be. But it's one of those things that really sort of stands out for fat guys as, in my opinion anyway, one of the worst parts about being fat. Because when you're fat as a guy, then you have that sort of non-threatening, cuddly teddy bear aspect to you, which is kind of annoying. But that quickly goes away when they actually make contact with you. And there's nothing quite as bad. I mean, I don't take my shirt off for anything. If I could, I would keep it on in the shower. But when you go to the doctor or something like that, and you pretty much have to because they're examining and poking and prodding and stuff, it's always the same thing, and you have your little half-naked shirt on, and you're standing there feeling like a twit, and they say, okay, take off your shirt, and we'll poke around and stuff, and it's the worst part of it at all, because I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should just stand there and just cover my nipples, or if I should flaunt them. Do I sing? Do I just dance around? Do I try to get money out of them? Do I just stand there and go... Anyway, not that. That would be weird. But it's the one aspect of being fat that is absolutely horrible across the board. And almost everything else, I mean, if you could pick and say, okay, well, you have all these issues, what's the one thing you can get rid of from being fat? There's heart disease and liver disease and the being out of breath and being sweaty and gross and everything else. It would have to be man boobs to get rid of those. And that's one of those things that I suppose when everyone's doing the 10 things I won't miss about being fat, that's going to be probably number one on my list. I can handle the sweaty, out of breath, going up the stairs, jiggling when I brush my teeth, all the other horrible stuff. But that is one that really sort of stands out. Because it's not something that is... It would be the equivalent of any time that a woman gets fat that she knows she's going to grow a mustache. And not like that little wispy thing, but like a big Magnum PI mustache. Because it points you out as, yes, you're insanely fat. Your body doesn't even know what it's trying to do with itself. And so you're growing things in places that you really shouldn't. And I've seen a lot of people that are on YouTube, some of the people that we have in our playlist, the fellow YouTubers, that have been able to say, here's what I look like, and, show themselves off and say, here's what I have to work with, here's my goal, here's where I'm headed, things like that. And it's just not something I'm ever think I'm going to be prepared to do. Because there's just it's not even so much a stigma as it is just sheer embarrassment. And I know that it would be something that I should be starting out with and saying, here's where I start and here's where I finish and things like that. And I have I have a picture of me at my absolutely heaviest, without a shirt on. But once I get to where I need to be, then I will share that with you. But more than anything, that's the one thing that sort of stands out, that I don't think it would be as bad for the majority of us if the man boob thing wasn't a part of it, or moobs, whatever you want to call them. If you're a Fight Club fan, you can even go way overboard and call them bitch tits, which I don't like, but it's out there. So when I lost my train of thought now because I can hear my alarm going off. When you're fat as a guy, for me anyway, this is the one thing that sort of stands out as the most embarrassing part. I don't think that I would be as embarrassed if I had just sort of like regular pecs and then big fat belly everywhere. I don't think it would be as bad because just like the mustache thing, it's something that just sort of, you look at it and you go, I don't even register as like masculine at that point. When you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're just, ugh, it just looks so horrible. And I don't think I'm alone in this because I have friends obviously that are, bigger like me, and it's bigger, fat. I have fat friends as well. That have, I have some that have gone through the same thing and that they understand and they're just like, yeah, no, that's why I don't take my shirt off. I have others that just don't give a shit, and will, gladly parade around town naked, which they shouldn't do because I think it's against the law where I am. Pretty sure it's against the law everywhere. But it's one of those things that when I get to the goal that I want to get to, even before that, that's one thing that I think is going to stand out as a major milestone for me. That is the one thing that'll say, okay, now I'm happy, or, I've reached my goal. Because, like I say, it's not a matter of, you look at yourself and you're just sort of like, it's not even, I don't even look like a male. It's just an amorphous blob of everything everywhere. And, I know there are some people that are, have it worse off than I do, and there are some people that have it better than I do, so I'm not saying, oh, this is the worst thing in the world, but it's one of those things that, for me, that's what stands out as the number one thing about me being fat. And the strange thing is that I've had men say stuff about it, I've had women say stuff about it, and not just, hey, you have boobs, you're funny, but just even friends of mine just commenting on it and things like that. Obviously not to be mean or anything else, it's one of those things that come up, and you can't say anything. You can't say, oh, no, I'm perfectly fine. Like, when they can look at you and say, I've had someone say, your boobs are bigger than mine. And she was right. Not that that's... Okay. Now I'm getting into strange territory now, because for those of you out there that have small boobs, for the women out there, that you feel bad about, don't feel bad. They're awesome. And that's the weird thing, is that I'm to a stage now where... If we're going to talk about, we're going to get really graphic now. Well, not graphic, but I'm going to get comments on this. I'm unlike most guys, I'm not a big boob person. Large breasts to me are just sort of, I don't like them. Not that I don't like them, it's just that there is such a thing as too much of a good thing, as they say. And I don't know if I equate that to, one trait or another. It's one of those things that, oh god, this is sounding worse and worse and worse. Okay, let's just I prefer smaller breasts. There we go, I'll put it that way. So for all you women out there that have smaller breasts and you think, oh, they're not big enough, and I hate it, don't change it. Don't get implants. Implants are gross across the board anyway. Just, you're lovely, things are great, everyone likes them. But I'm to a stage now, this is why I'm sort of bringing this up now, because now there's people just frantically writing and just going, you sexist prick. I'm not. But it's one of those things that I'm actually at a stage now, and believe it or not, this is after the 5 months of us doing this, where my boobs are bigger than the boobs that I prefer on women. If that makes sense to you. When I'm looking at them, you're like, they're a little too big for my own. So, see, now it sounds like I'm looking at myself all the time going, I have boobs and I can do them whatever I want. This is turning into a really, really weird video. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because although we all have those body image issues, one way or the other, this sort of stands out aside from just being fat. There is a stigma that comes from being fat where, people, and we've talked about this before, people see you as being lazy or smelly or, just those weird stereotypes that sort of follow along with that. Unfortunately, some of them are true with some people and some of them aren't. But when you have something like this sort of stands out from that because it's generally not looked at as, oh, well, he's fat, so he has boobs. It's that personal image that you have of yourself, that self-image, there we go, that's the term I've been looking for, and I haven't been able to say because I'm an idiot, that really sort of sets you apart, and that's what's going to trigger that embarrassment all the way around. Because everyone, you can be fat. You can be fat and still, you're okay. But when you sort of start straying into that territory of, you now have body parts that don't belong to you. And I know, I'm still sticking with the mustache thing for women. It would be the equivalent of that. Actually, no, because I can conceal boobs. I don't tape up or wear a bra or anything. But I wear layers and it makes sure that, I don't run in front of people so things are bouncing all over the place. So I'm trying to think of what the equivalent would be. And I don't want to say it would be, okay, well, if you're a fat person, if you're a woman, then you would grow a penis. Because it's not that drastic. But something along the lines of, here we go, here's a perfect example. Okay, it would be the equivalent of if a woman got fat, if she ended up getting a hairy chest every single time. Or a hairy back, even worse. A hairy back, every single time. That you knew that if you were past a certain weight, you'd start getting a hairy back. Because it's something that is just, actually no, I think I'll stick with the hairy chest thing, because the hairy back is gross across the board. So it's the sort of thing that you look at and say, okay, well, if this was on a man, it would probably be somewhat okay, but on a woman, it doesn't belong at all. And it's the same thing with us, is that this is something that just doesn't belong. I can handle being fat everywhere else because I know what I need to do to fix it. But for a guy, having the boobs is just, for some, I suppose, they're like, hey, I have boobs. But I highly doubt that it's the vast majority of us out there just are not enjoying this at all. And going back to what I was trying to say before, and I keep sort of getting distracted, because we're talking about boobs, that when I get to that point where I think, okay, and now I need to start sort of honing in on different things, you can't really sort of burn away fat from specific areas. You can't say, okay, today I'm going to work on my legs so that my legs aren't fat. It doesn't work that way. Whatever fat you burn, your body's going to say, oh, I'm just going to take it from wherever I need to at the moment. So it's not a matter of saying, well, I can now just focus on my pecs and that's where I'll lose the fat. I can build muscle, but there's still going to be boobage there until I get rid of the fat. So that's one of those things that when I'm finally happy with that I think more than anything else, even more than the weight and more than the numbers, that's going to be something that's really going to make me feel like I've accomplished something. Because it's so hard to describe. Guys out there, you're going to get this. You're going to understand. I've tried doing the hairy chest thing or the mustache thing. It's going to be related to body hair at some point. So that women, you can sort of understand. And I'm sure there are tons of other things that women go through that we are never going to understand. But it's one of those things that really only affects guys. That because it's not that it's just like a misshapen pec or something like that. I mean, there's a medical term for it. Sorry. I want to say gynecomastia. Anyway, gynecomastia, I think, is the term for it. That's something different. That's actual breast tissue, like with the proper glands and everything else going on in there. That is not what this is. This is simply just a matter of being too fat and your body doesn't know where to put it, so they're like, store it up here. It'll be fine. And then eventually, one day, it just goes bloop, and you have boobs. And you can't do anything about it. Well, you can, obviously. We can lose the weight. We can start exercising and sort of overall get rid of it. But it's not one of those things that you can easily conceal. I mean, I do my best when I'm out in public to try to drape things properly and cover things up so that I'm all just, I try to conceal things well. Because number one, don't want to hear comments. Number two, I'm very paranoid about that stuff. And I think I don't want them to sort of be staring all the time just going, he has boobs. But overall, it's one of those things that I can handle the fat belly and the big ass and the big legs and arms and everything else. But overall, for, if I was to pick one thing, that's the thing that really gets me more than anything else. And so it's so tough because I know there's nothing that I can do until I can lose all the weight to really sort of focus in on that without surgery or something, which I'm not going to go for. But I know that eventually I can do it. So it's just sort of one of those things that I know it's going to feel like an actual accomplishment when I get rid of it. And I'm all over the place with this. I had intended on actually focusing in on this and just saying, this is an emotional and psychological issue that goes along with having sweater muffins. And I'm sure that I've touched on a few things that women have gone through as well. I always picture it's the same sort of thing that probably like teenage girls go through when they start going through puberty, that they don't know where to go, so they're just like covering everything up. Just imagine that what you went through when you were a kid and you first started going through puberty. That's what guys with man boobs go through every day, for the majority part. I think majority of us. For the most part. There we go. That's the word term I'm looking for. I think for the majority of us, that's what we go through. I'm sure there are some. I have a friend who just doesn't care at all. That, they don't have that self-consciousness where they will still take their shirt off at the beach. And, they're as big or bigger than I am. And it's one of those things, I mean, we've seen it on YouTube as well. Some of the people that we follow along, that they've been able to stand up and say, here's what I have to work with, here's what I want to get rid of, and everything else. And there are some people that can do that. And it's either a matter of being, a hell of a lot braver than I am, or just getting to a stage where they don't care and say, okay, I'm going to change, so I don't mind people looking at this. Or just that they just like, I don't give a shit, I'm fat, who cares? No one cares. And there are times that I kind of wish that I could be that way, but it's not going to happen. But I think for the most part, the majority of guys out there that are watching this, there is that feeling of these don't belong here. It's one thing to look at, like, just our fat all over the place and say that doesn't belong here, but it's different when you start sort of adapting. Your body starts growing parts that it doesn't need, and you're saying these don't belong here. This is one thing that sort of takes away from, what's the word I'm looking for? Takes away your masculinity? I don't think that's right, because it doesn't really. Anyway, when you look at yourself and you think I have lady bits, then it does. It does something. It's a little bit different than just being embarrassed because you're fat and listening to people teasing you and everything else. People teasing me about, me just being fat across the board for whatever reason. I can handle that. It's the ones if someone's teasing you about having boobs and you're like, I can't, what do I do? I don't, So it is a little difficult. It sort of stands out differently than the rest of you being fat. And again, I'm sure that, there are tons of things that, women go through when they're fat as well that They sort of keep hidden from us. But I think this is one thing that we can all sort of share and say, all right, yes, we have man boobs or moobs or breasts or whatever you want to call them, man titties. I don't care what the term is that you want to use for it. It's just something that it stands out as something that is really foreign and alien to what we should be looking like. And I think that the vast majority of us would be able to handle being fat if it wasn't for this one part. Or two parts. Honk, honk. I should have done a honking sound effect. That would have been better. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. Because it would have been funny, though. Anyway, I don't know where this conversation was going. Mainly just sort of wanted to touch on something that I think really sort of is at the peak of the embarrassing portion of our bodies when it comes to something like this. And I think it's probably shared by a lot of guys out there as well. I would have something to say, okay, for women, this is what, this would be something that would be equivalent, but unfortunately, I can't really speak to that. That's why I think the hairy chest thing is probably part of it, because there are some people that like hairy chests, and there are some people that don't, but, and it's the same thing. Some people like large breasts, some people like small breasts, but it's where it's sort of similar in that it doesn't belong. A woman with a hairy chest just is going to look really weird, just like a man with boobs looks really weird. So, there we go. Now, of course, I'm going to get all the Caitlyn Jenner fans yelling at me and everything else. I'm not talking about that. Those are boobs. These don't belong here. This is not the same thing. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think of something else that I can bring up, but I'm just going to keep saying the word boobs over and over and over again. And you probably don't want to see that. But I'm sure that there is something that we all have. I might be alone in this. I highly doubt that I am. I suspect that the vast majority of men that go through this feel the same way, that they're just like, yeah, they're boobs, which are awesome, but not on me. I just don't like them. And I'm sure but I think that everybody has one thing about their body that stands out for them as the one thing that they just absolutely hate, that they want to get rid of. And whether it's your boobs or your legs or your ass or your belly or your arms or whatever it is that you have, that you're looking at yourself and going, it's just, I want to get rid of it. Just remember that, eventually it is going to happen. We're working really, really hard towards a goal at the end of this year, so that, and we may not hit it. The pace that we're going, I'm not going to hit my target weight at the end of the year if I keep going the way I'm going. Because I'm slowly losing, I'm changing, everything about how I'm, what I'm eating and how I'm eating and things like that. That's our main goal. You probably have less to lose than I do, so you may reach your goal at the end of the year. But not all of us are going to do that, but we can continue on from there. But the main thing is that at some point, if we keep going, if we keep persevering and saying, okay, no, I need to stick with this, I need to make this change, you will eventually reach it. And part of that is going to be that whatever aspect of you feel is the one thing that sort of stands out that you just don't like about yourself physically. Personality-wise, if you're an idiot or an asshole personality-wise, this isn't going to help you. But physically, it's that one part that you don't like that you will eventually be able to work on that and get that to a point where you're okay with it. Whether it's, and I know this is going to sort of start bleeding into a self-acceptance thing and people saying, oh, you should love us the way we, no. Realistically speaking, we all have some aspect of us that we just don't like. And for some, it's going to be on the opposite end where, you've lost all the weight, but you lost it too quickly. So maybe you have loose skin. So that's the thing that you're like, I want to work on that. Eventually it will get to a point where you will be able to get to a stage where you'll be able to look at yourself and say, you know what? I'm happier this way. It may not be perfect, but I'm happier. For me, it's going to be getting rid of my man boobs. For you, it might be your belly. It might be your legs. It might be your arms. It might be your face. Maybe you're looking at your face and thinking, it's when I start getting that jawline, that's when I think I'm going to be happy. That's going to be my milestone. And it's not an ending point. It's not a spot where we're going to finally stop and say, okay, I'm good. I don't have to do any more. But it's one of those things that's going to be the day that is going to trigger in you that realization that you have done something, that all this hard work that we've been going through for the past 5 months at this point, but at the end of that year, that you can look back and say, I did this for a full year and I've made a difference. That's going to be your milestone, more than the numbers, more than being able to say, no, I don't snack as much as I used to, or I cut way back on my sugar. There are all these little like number-based goals that we have, but there is going to be one that's going to stand out for you, that's going to be the day when that physical appearance, you're going to look in the mirror and you're going to say, I've done something, it's made a difference. I've accomplished something throughout my work. And it may not be at the very end. It may be at the halfway point. It may be 3/4 of the way through. But there's going to be some day that you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to notice something. And you're going to say, this is working. This is, I need to stick with this. And that's going to give us the little boost that we need to keep going through to the end of the year and then past that, and to continue on with what really is a major lifestyle change, to a point where we're going to be able to continue on and keep doing this without the constantly tracking everything every single day and watching what we eat and just having that overall feeling of such a struggle all the way through. It's going to become our lifestyle. And gradually, as the years go on and we do start losing the weight and getting healthier and everything else, then everything's going to sort of come together that way. And then when add in exercise and everything else that we've been doing, that long term, it is going to pay off. And you just need to sort of keep your eye out for it, because we're our own worst enemy when it comes to criticizing ourselves. But you have to keep an eye out for it and say, you know what? You might even say, I still look like shit, but this is one thing that at least I can see that has made a difference. Whether it's, that you're fitting into your jeans better, or that you fit into something that you haven't seen in 2 years, or that you have that realization and saying, I'm in the mood for something that, isn't food, isn't cakes and cookies and everything else, that there's going to be some change somewhere along the line that's not going to be number-based, that's going to hit you. And it's going to have that little realization, and that's going to give us a little bit of a boost as well. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. I know we've sort of talked a little bit about, how horrible we look and everything else, but that is changing. We are doing what we can to get to a stage where we feel better emotionally and psychologically, and a big part of that is how we see ourselves physically. We can't deny it. There's, again, people can say, oh, you should love yourself the way that you are. But it's really hard to do that when you look at yourself every day and you see the same thing that everyone else does, and you understand why they make fun of you and say, no wonder. I need to change this, which is what we have been doing. So one way or the other, at this stage, you have made progress. Hopefully, since we're now changing up, late, the amount of fluid you're bringing in is going to change even better, or even more. But you have made a difference. One way or the other, you are 4 or 5 months into this program, and whether you've had, one stumbling block or 10 along the way, it's better than having 5 months, better than having 142 days of straight stumbling blocks every single day. You have made progress. So keep that in mind. And we're going to keep going and past the 365-day mark, and we'll keep going for the next 10 years if we need to. But we can get to a stage where we are going to be happier with ourselves physically and emotionally and psychologically, and hopefully get to a point where we're content. Not even ecstatic and saying, I'm great, I look awesome, but just content with who we are across the board. So anyway, I'm babbling on once again, so I'm going to end this here. So hopefully you've taken something away from this, something positive, aside from me playing with my boobs the entire time. But, again, it's going to be something that I need to get rid of myself. That's going to be my milestone. When I can look in the mirror and go, hey, I'm down to an 8 cup. It's going to make me feel better. Anyway, for right now, I'm going to leave this here. So thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.